Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa DeSalles. I'm a pelvic health physical therapist at Wave Physio in Kelowna, BC, Canada. And my practice, both at the clinic and through my online business called Mommy Berries, is heavily focused on pregnancy and postpartum. I really strongly believe that we should be taking a proactive approach and educating women about the musculoskeletal changes that happen to our bodies during pregnancy, during birth, and with postpartum recovery. This interview that you're about to watch lives in the Mommy Berries Facebook community. It's a community that's been created to help fill information gaps and better talk about topics that we just don't bring up in conversation with our family, with our friends, and even with our care providers sometimes. But that leaves women feeling really confused and alone with a lot of embarrassing things that they're experiencing. So, if you're not already a member of the community, I would really welcome you to join. You need to search for it. It's called Pregnancy and Postpartum Support Mommy Berries. Please do join and invite any of your pregnant and postpartum friends to enjoy too. In that community, you'll find lots of information, usually in the form of interviews, to be able to help you understand some of the changes that your body's going through. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce to you two of my colleagues, both physios at the clinic I work with, Jess and Kirsty, and they're going to help me talk about modifying exercise during pregnancy. And the reason I wanted to bring two of them on is because they both have had very different experiences with exercising during pregnancy. And I think some of you are going to relate more to Jess and some of you are going to relate more to Kirsty. Before we talk a little bit about their specific stories, I want to talk a little bit about the guidelines that are currently out there for pregnancy. The guidelines are very supportive of exercising during pregnancy, in that, like, evidence does support that there's very little risk to exercising and that the benefits very much outweigh any risks. They recommend that pretty well all women, with exception, I'll talk about that in a bit, are active about 150 minutes a week. So roughly 30 minutes, 5 times a week of moderate intensity activity. Obviously, that's variable depending on what type of activity that you enjoy. But the benefits to exercise are obviously to help control weight gain, gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, and obviously for mental health. I think that's one of the biggest things that exercise is good for. Not to mention keeps us active and better able to recover and be able to deal with the heaviness of having a new baby. So, I mentioned contraindications. That is something, there are some contraindications, obviously, like maybe multiples, maybe you've had some bleeding that's unexplained, some premature labor in the past, ruptured membranes. That is not an exhaustive list, but I would recommend that you talk to your care provider about any reason that you cannot be taking part in exercise. And if you can, then I highly suggest that you talk to a therapist that is supporting you about ways to incorporate it into your life. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce you first to Jess, and I'm going to bring her on, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her journey with exercise. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, everybody, I have Jess with me first. Thanks for being here, Jess.
No problem.
So Jess is, as I mentioned, one of my colleagues at Wave. We work at the same clinic together, but she's also a good friend of mine. And really exciting, she's expecting her first baby.
Yay.
How many weeks now, Jess?
20 weeks.
Aw, so like halfway done.
Yeah.
She kept it
easy, right?
I know, she kept it a secret a very, very long time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jess because she's too humble to talk about herself. She is a superstar. No, she grew up, she started swimming competitively at age 6 and obviously kind of progressed from there because she was a very accomplished swimmer. She even represented Canada in the 96 and 2000 Olympics, and obviously retired from swimming now, but doesn't just sit around. This is an active individual here. And I thought she'd be a good person to come on and talk a little bit about what pregnancy has done, you know, and how it's changed her exercise. Because we talked a little bit a bit earlier before you came on, Jess, about the guidelines that are out there for pregnancy, and they're very general. They definitely promote exercise. There's lots of reasons to be active, but obviously we have to think of people on an individual level. And I thought it would be really good for both you and Kirsty to talk a little bit about your journey, and we can see kind of ways that you've been modifying based on the fact that your body's changing.
Mhm.
Maybe, Jess, I thought you could start with what you liked to do for exercise, like what types of exercise you did before you were pregnant. Like, what did the week kind of look like for you?
I dabble. I definitely like, I'm happiest when I'm able to run, and sometimes I'm injured and have things that inhibit that. But usually, if I can go for 1 or 2 runs a week, hit the gym when it's cold out, and so either do a little bit of cardio and some weights at the gym. Um, like doing some kind of class when I can, kind of once a week, either like a bar class or yoga class or something like that. And then I like to swim with you once a week.
Yeah. You
um,
like to swim
but
ahead of me once a week?
but like to get in the water about once a
Yeah.
week or so. So, and then seasonally, whether it be bike riding or skiing, just like to mix it up. So keep it interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah. So nothing super rigid, but just being active.
I
Yeah.
think I think that's great, and I think that the reason that, like, you're the one that made me think of doing this, because you started kind of just talking to me in conversation about, oh, I've noticed I have to do this when I run, or I've noticed I have to do this, and I thought, oh, we should talk about this, because I think what I, it's very cliche, and I think a lot of people get annoyed when we say listen to your body. People are like, what does that mean? But it will tell you things. It will
Mhm.
tell everybody something different, though. And
Totally.
I liked one of the things you mentioned. I remember you saying to me, is I've noticed when I'm running, I have to change things. Why don't you, like,
Mhm.
tell me what you've noticed, or tell everybody what you've noticed that you have to change when you run?
Um, so I think the first thing I noticed was just like fatigue really quick. And it was like before I even knew I was pregnant, that like 2 weeks before I did a great run, and then I just felt like I had no energy. So I just backed off just like you normally would when you feel kind of um, that like fatigued. I think it's
As
the best
in,
word for it.
you backed off your speed, you backed off your distance, what did you
A little
back
bit of
off?
both. Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually kind of just took a little bit of, as like, I'm just need a break from running. Maybe I've just been doing too much.
Mhm.
I'll spend more time biking for the next little while. I didn't really think anything of it. And um, now at this point, I'm trying to keep running as long as my body kind of lets me. And I'm trying to keep that at once or twice a week, but I've shortened the distance down a bit. And, I'm not, usually I'm really bad at being competitive with myself and timing my runs and trying to go as fast as I can on my runs, which is
No, not
ridiculous,
you,
but
not you.
I know. But I've kind of stopped doing that and just be like, okay, I'm doing it and it doesn't hurt. And I think the longer, for myself anyway, that I feel like I can do it safely, I feel like it's going to be easier for me coming out of it, and just staying strong, keeping the muscles around my hips and pelvis and everything like that strong, I think is going to be better for me into that third trimester. So I'm trying to do what I can. So I've definitely slowed it down a ton, partially because I feel like my stride length needs to come down quite a bit. It just felt like the first time I tried to do something fast, I almost felt like my tummy was like pulling, and it felt like a strain a little bit. And kind of realized quite quickly that was going to have to change.
Sure.
And then just like being out of breath, like I feel like I'm gasping for air a lot more than I used to, especially at the warm up.
Mhm.
So just slowing down that pace and just run to be outside and to enjoy the nice weather while we can and take it
Totally.
in for that.
And something
Yeah.
I know we've talked about, it, you've had, we all have different aches and pains. I know something like has been your SI joint that's bothered you on and off. And we talked about, it wasn't that you had got there yet with your pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
but we had talked about sometimes it's an option to kind of belt it. There's
Totally.
different support belts, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially to
Yeah.
keep active. It would be a supportive measure. And so
Totally.
that might be something that you eventually need to think about in order
For sure.
to keep that up. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about, so that's kind of running. You've mentioned I've cut down on, like, timing myself basically, and not trying to set any personal bests.
Yeah.
Been thinking about just like changing your stride length, not being so hard on yourself, all of that kind of stuff. Probably having to, like, think of flatter runs, all of that stuff.
Oh, and I totally have for that too. For
Exactly,
sure.
exactly.
For sure.
All fine. And I always talk about how you should totally expect during pregnancy to see a little bit of this, just based on the fact that you are growing a human. That is normal that you're noticing a slow decline. Talk
Totally.
about swimming, Jess, because like I said, my husband and I both swim with Jess, and I remember him kind of saying like he thought he was getting fast because we didn't know she was pregnant, but really she was just a little slower. So it was really helping our ego. But now that she's growing a human, we don't feel as good about ourselves. Anyways, maybe talk a little bit about what kinds of things you've noticed change with swimming or cycling.
Yeah. I think with swimming, we because of COVID, we've been in the lake, right? So I haven't really been in a pool, so I have no idea how fast or slow I'm going, and I'm okay with that. Um, but definitely a few times, especially when it seems to come in phases. I don't know if that's normal for everyone or not, but where I really feel like constricted in my breath. Like I don't know if it's phases of some growth or some stretching. Um, that I really have to make sure I just kind of start off a bit slower, so I don't get kind of just panty, like a lot of panting and stuff. Um, and then that one time we were swimming, and that was just a bad week in general for that. And I just felt like my wetsuit really just had to loosen it up. Like I just felt like I felt a little more constricted. Maybe it's also because it's a little bit tighter than it
Totally.
was. So that's one thing I definitely noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't tried all the strokes. I haven't done
Mm-hmm.
speed work. I haven't done anything like that just because it's been like swimming, right? We haven't been in the pool at all. So
Totally.
um,
Are you
yeah.
noticing anything different when you cycle?
I haven't been on my road bike for a few weeks. I've been out with like my just
Mm-hmm.
cruising and stuff, and that's been fine. Um, Definitely, I think more energy than anything else I've noticed for the most part. The last time I did a longer ride is my the hills, which are usually like my favorite, were more challenging than usual, even though like I wasn't necessarily putting that much more weight, just with the breathing more than anything, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
And I think it's important. I like that you point out that you do a variety of things because I think what sometimes gets scary is that some of these people that do, and a lot of people are kind of a not as much multi-sport, but they really have a passion for one sport or one activity. And I would say pregnancy is a good time to dabble.
Yeah,
So is postpartum, because if something doesn't feel good, it doesn't cut you off from being active. It kind of is like,
totally.
okay, you know what, and you mentioned that, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to put aside running for a few weeks. I'm going to try something else and I will come back to it. And I
Mhm,
think you're going to notice that possibly kind of continues, and
mhm,
you might notice that postpartum too. So dabbling is good
totally.
because it always keeps a door open.
For sure.
Just
And I
talk a
think
little.
also like anyone who's had injuries or stuff before, or like
Mhm.
I've had to make accommodations before with that, like pull a quad muscle and you're like soccer's out for a bit, but can do X, Y, or Z or whatever.
Totally.
So I just kind of treat it like that. Like find something else to focus on that feels okay, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just notice it's normal. It's not that your body's failing you. It's like you said, could be just going through a shift. Plus, there's just so many things that your body's going through. Just
Totally.
talk a little bit about how you've noticed. I know you do a lot of Pilates. Not only do you kind of use that as part of your practice as a physio, but so in some of the exercises that you do for yourself, like Pilates, but also like different strength training or core exercises, um, how have you had to modify those, or what
Mhm.
suggestions would you give to someone else that's wondering like what do I need to modify?
Yeah, I think I mean, the biggest thing, like with any like kind of workout classes or like Pilates or even yoga or anything like that is, and I'm sure you've talked about before, is like with the abdominal type stuff. So trying to back off of doing like your sit-ups per se. And being okay. So if you go to a group class, and I haven't done that because of COVID, but if it was a group class and everyone's doing abs, like am I okay with just swapping that out for something that I know is safer, some more core and breathing and connecting and
Mm-hmm.
doing some challenges without really stressing the abdominals too much. And um, if you need to talk to an instructor before to tell them that you're probably going to make some modifications so you don't feel pressured, I think that would be the biggest thing. So working out at home, if I'm following a class online, it's easy just to swap it out and just do something else at the same time, and just feels more appropriate. And you have the time and you're there, you might as well just work on something that you know is going to be better for you.
Yeah.
And then in the studio, it's really just been I've just been showing up to work a few minutes early and doing some exercises here and there, and for me, it's been a nice opportunity to use the equipment to do some core and some breathing, some light resistance stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and some glutes and stuff because I think that's quite important. I know for myself, who's had some different injuries for like SI and low back and stuff, to keep those, and hip, just to keep it really strong for me. But I think also relevant for during pregnancy as well, to keep that nice and strong. Mhm.
Totally. And I always tell people, like, how I would describe is like your whole abdomen is changing. Like all your muscles are being put on length in your abdomen, and
Totally.
your core like lives in the middle of you, and your baby is stretching your core, and it's changing how all of the muscles relate to one another. And so I think pregnancy is a really good time to slow down your movements, kind of like decrease the amount of range of motion you put your muscles through sometimes, and just be really deliberate with how you coordinate your core with your kind of external muscle system, because it's just having a hard time, and kind of just recognizing that it's having a hard time connecting the dots is just recognizing it, and being slow and deliberate with your exercise. And I
Totally.
think that lots of times women do get the message like core is bad, and it's not bad. It's just, you just kind of have to be aware of how your
Mhm.
body's changing and how you can adapt. And so I think that that might be a spin-off that we take off after
Mhm.
in another session, to talk a little bit about modifying core exercise during pregnancy,
Mhm.
because I know a lot of people are interested in that.
Totally.
So I think that we could definitely spend a whole time talking about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I like you said, how you've talked about variety, and how you've talked about modifying, different exercises so that you don't have a ton of expectation on yourself.
Mhm.
One thing that I've put together that I would suggest people that are watching this take a look at it, if you are expecting to learn a little bit more about the changes that your core and your pelvic floor and your diaphragm and your abdominals in general are going through. I've put together a webinar. It lives online. I will link it in the bottom of this on the bottom of this video, but it'll go through some of the changes. It talks about diastasis, why it's normal during pregnancy, a little bit more about exercise, but also how to prepare, take activity, but also prepare for birth itself. And so I would highly suggest taking a look at that webinar, because it will help to kind of fit together some of the pieces that we're talking about today. And um, Jess, thanks so much for doing this. Do you feel
No
like
problem.
there's anything that I kind of haven't touched on that you've noticed that I should talk about, or that we should talk about for the benefit of people that want to exercise during pregnancy? I think I just want
Gosh.
to make sure that people
Yeah.
understand, like, you're all individuals, and
Totally.
like, don't ever feel, if you're feeling overwhelmed or confused or scared to exercise, or your body truly is telling you something that doesn't feel right. And when I say not feel right, it could be pain in your pelvis, in your back, um, in your vagina. You could feel like vulnerable through your abdomen, or stretching, or like doming through your abdomen. You could notice leaking. You could notice heaviness. Honestly, anything where you think, oh, this doesn't feel right, just take that as not my body's breaking, but more my body's just telling me that it's hitting a
Mhm.
threshold. And so work with
Totally.
someone one-on-one, because there doesn't mean that you can't do that activity, but maybe you just need to make a modification so that you can do it. Yeah, reach out to either a pelvic health physio or a physical therapist that works with pregnant women. Trainers sometimes are very comfortable working with pregnant clients, but do reach out to someone in your community for an individualized assessment. As I mentioned, I'm going to be bringing on, I think a lot of you will have identified with Jess, and especially if you're feeling pretty good and you feel like you can do a lot, I think you'll identify with some of the things you said. And I'm now going to kind of make a bit of a flip and bring on another one of our colleagues, Kirsty, who's also pregnant, and is going to talk to us a little bit about her journey and how she's experiencing something a bit different. So thanks again,
Okay.
Jess,
No
and I
problem.
appreciate your time. And I look
Time.
forward to doing this again. And I was telling someone else, I was thinking maybe we'd connect again in a couple months and see where you're at, and see,
Totally.
kind of what changes you've made. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
perfect.
Have a good
Awesome.
night, Jess.
You too.
All right, everybody. I've now got friend and colleague number 2, Kirsty, with me. She works with Jess and I at Wave Physio. She's also a fellow pelvic health physio, so we see a lot of the same clients. And welcome, Kirsty,
Hi,
who
everybody.
happens to
Thanks
be
for having
pregnant
me.
as well.
Yes.
Kirsty, how many weeks pregnant are you?
I am 13 weeks pregnant now.
And you have a 2-year-old daughter, right?
Yes, my daughter Mila just turned 2 in June.
Awesome. And so I
Yeah.
thought Kirsty would be a great person to bring on as well, because not only is she an active person, but I think a lot of you are going to relate to her differently than those of you that related to Jess that we just talked about, because Kirsty and Jess have a bit of a different thing going on. Both very active individuals, both physiotherapists, so they understand the body very well and they understand the benefits of exercise, but in a slightly different path right now. And Kirsty, tell us a little bit about what kinds of things you normally like to do for exercise, like when you're not pregnant.
Yeah. So when I'm not pregnant, I'm kind of a cardio fiend and I just love going out for a long run. So I would probably run 3 days a week. And then I would probably go to a spin class or spin at home on my trainer, maybe 2 to 3 times a week as well. And it's just a stress relief for me. I love it.
Totally. What kind of distances were you doing with running?
Anything up to, like 30, 35K for a long run and, half marathon distance. But yeah, probably during the week, it would be probably a couple of 10 or 12Ks and then a speed run.
Okay. So you run a lot. So tell us a little bit. We had Jess on right before talking about kind of how she's modified her running and some of her other activities like swimming. Tell us a little bit about like what you're doing right now for exercise.
Well, that's a good question, Mel, because I've been doing absolutely nothing.
I love it. And that's exactly why I wanted to bring you on here, because like you're very active. It's not like you're someone that's like, I hate exercise. It's just like, I love it and I need it, but I'm not doing any. So tell everyone, because everyone's like, thank you, someone else is saying this, but why aren't you doing anything?
I've just been totally knocked out with fatigue and nausea. So for me, it's just like basic survival mode, get up, get something to eat, get the nausea down, rest, take care of my daughter, go to work, and then collapse again on the couch.
Yeah,
and go to bed.
Totally. And Kirsty, like what a lot of you don't know is she's gone through some big life changes lately. They've recently moved to Kelowna. They've got a new house. Like there's a lot going on with Kirsty right now. And I think it's important for people to understand like there's only so much that we can prioritize. And right now, I'm sure I know you're going to get back to exercise and you're going to get back to doing the things you love. But right now, it's just not top of the priority list, right?
Oh, it just can't be. I mean, there's no way I can. It's just, my body won't let me.
Absolutely. And of course, I imagine there's kind of like guilt and everything that goes along with it. But I think, like, I'll tell you from an outsider, there's no part of me that thinks like, oh my gosh, Kirsty's doing this all wrong. She's failing. And no, it's like, of course she's not. And I have full confidence that you will get back to that. And I'm curious to know, um, I wanted you to point out the other day, you said something to me. You said, because you had been feeling miserable for days and days and days and days and weeks. And I asked you the other day, how are you feeling? And you said, I have figured out something that makes me feel a lot better. What was it? Do you remember what you said to me?
Yeah, it's really simple. Like I just have to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And just not even sitting down on my phone. I have to lie down, close my eyes, and actually just be restful. And it's surprising how much that really helps. That seems so obvious, but it wasn't to me until I really started doing it and I realized how much that was helping me feel better.
Awesome. And then the other day when we chatted, you said, I feel like I've kind of turned a little bit of a corner. I don't know if it's just time or, I've been doing better at resting. Do you feel like exercise is starting to kind of come onto your radar? Does any part of you want it now?
Oh yeah. I mean, even driving to work or going to the store, I'll see people running along the road and just, I just want to so bad, but I tried going for a walk yesterday, my first walk in 6 weeks. And, it just knocked me out for the rest of the day. So it's just, I think at this point, I really just have to listen to my body and really take it just like baby steps.
Absolutely. And that's something that I talked about with Jess is I first outlined kind of what the guidelines are out there for for pregnancy, but obviously like that's kind of, you know, the big picture, like what are we quote unquote allowed to do? But I think it's important that we listen to what our body's telling us, and that's going to change maybe day to day or week to week. But Kirsty, what do you think then? So you went out, your body felt like it was ready to go. Tell us like how long you went for that first walk.
I was actually walking up to my parents' place, which is just up the hill from here. So I knew it was only like 1.2 kilometers. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, that shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, I mean, I was out of breath walking mm-hmm. up the hill, and, mm-hmm. you know, I felt like I needed to lie down after 25 minutes of walking.
Totally. And, yeah. And I think that you and I can both relate in that we have lots of clients that come in to see us that would have a similar story to you, that they're like, oh my gosh, like I keep hearing that I'm supposed to exercise, and I see all these things online and my friends are talking about exercising and I'm not doing anything. I'm starting to feel ready to do something. What should I do? Because I haven't done anything. So I like to run. Should I start with running? Do I need to do yoga? Let's say that one of your clients is telling you your own story, okay? And they're coming in saying, Kirsty, I'm finally starting to feel better. Where do you think I should start? And what would be some of your suggestions?
You know, I would ask them, what do they feel like doing? Mm-hmm. And what do you think is going to serve you best mm-hmm. in order to really, you know, I think exercise should be something that gives you more energy or fills a gap in your day or gives you a boost of some sort. Mm-hmm. So I would really wonder, you know, what's accessible, what's easy for you, mm-hmm. What can you just get out and go and do? Mm-hmm. So I think the logical answer for me is walking, just because, you know, you get outside, it's easy to do, mm-hmm. and you can kind of monitor your own pace and your own how you're feeling while you're doing it. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would go. And, you know, for other clients, if they've been doing maybe a little bit of at-home yoga, mm-hmm. amazing. Mm-hmm. You know, just start with some gentle stretches, gentle mm-hmm. range of motion, see how it goes, see how you feel. Absolutely. But definitely starting slow.
Absolutely. And I think that, like, I love how you hit on, like, everyone's individual, and you should always pick something that you like, because there's no sense going, like, I would never say to someone, do you hate the gym? Well, then I think you should go to the gym. I mean, you should find something that you feel like is sustainable and that, like you said, brings you joy. And first of all, make a list of the things that you like to do, and then start with attainable goals, right? And often, like for someone like you, I don't think it would make sense for me to say, okay, Kirsty, let's get back at it. 5 days a week. They recommend 150 minutes a week. We need to do 5 days a week, and I need you to go spinning, and you need to, you know, and so I think it would be, okay, Kirsty, where are you at? You tried that 20-minute walk and it didn't feel awesome, but you liked the idea of it. So I wonder if you did 10 minutes, or maybe not the incline up to your parents' place, or, you know, and did it leave you feeling good? Great. I wonder if we could just add that one more time in the week or something like that, to the point, like you said, that you feel like you have gas in the tank after, that you still feel good. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good. I like how you bring up variety, because I would say that a lot of pregnant and postpartum women, because of changes that are going on in our body, variety is good. You know, like cardio is awesome for, you know, to address things like gestational diabetes and weight gain, and be able to keep up our cardiovascular fitness, and obviously mental health. But then also things like yoga, or maybe some strength training for, because as you know, from having a toddler, like being a new mom comes with its challenges physically, right?
Yeah.
What kinds of things do you suggest to your clients, especially during COVID, maybe, that there's less access to gyms or going out to classes? What kinds of things do you recommend for, like, you touched on yoga at home. Maybe you could talk about some resources that you often provide to people to do yoga at home.
Mm-hmm. There's lots of really good online yoga. Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. Yes. Spinning Babies does a really good prenatal yoga. It's a 30-minute video, and it's, you know, you could do it feeling crummy in the first trimester, and you could do it probably all the way up to the third.
Yeah.
So I recommend that one a lot. And then for sort of more just general exercise, Peloton has an app, and I think it was free during COVID, and they do lots of they do like a guided walking workout, or you can do a spinning workout, or, whatever you like. So I like something, it's nice to go out and do your own thing, do a bit of, walking or cardio, but it's also nice to be guided through.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sit there and you have to you give to your clients, you give to your daughter, you give to your husband. And sometimes you're like, I just want to turn my brain off. Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, there's so much online at YouTube. Even you can YouTube
Totally.
easy pregnancy yoga, and it's like perfect, off you go.
And find someone that resonates with you, or that you like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think if anyone that's watching this, it would be helpful, anyone that's watching this in the community, if you do comment with some different programs or different videos that you have found along the way, we would love if you would share them, because then other people can benefit from the research that you've done to find, good programming or good videos to watch. I think that would be helpful for people. Yeah. And I think that probably also too, you find that now that you're like, okay, yes, I would like to get back to exercise, I'm feeling better, but I don't have an hour, right? And I think just understanding that sometimes that exercise time can be broken up into different segments in the week. And even if you try for 10 minutes 5 days a week, it doesn't have to be an hour 5 days a week. Because like life as a mom too, it doesn't afford a lot of time.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'll start doing once I feel better is just taking Mila to the park. Like, that would be a workout for me, to walk there and to run around with her at the equipment, and then come home. Or even just like today, I had to sweep, that was 20 minutes of me exercising truly. So it all adds up in the day.
Totally. Awesome. Any other things, Kirsty, that you feel like would be helpful for people to know? So we talked about the importance of finding things that you love, breaking it up into small chunks so that it feels attainable, because there's nothing worse than thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to do this hour of exercise and I never did it, so I'll do it tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I never did it, I have to do it the next day. Something attainable, something that you feel like you have energy left after, that's not totally zapping you, it's energizing you. To pick variety. I hope I didn't already say that, but pick variety, just because life is about variety. And like whether it be a combination of stretching, cardio, and strengthening. Anything else, Kirsty, that I didn't kind of summarize there that we talked about, or that you would add to recommendations for women that are wanting to do some exercise during pregnancy after being a bit inactive?
Yes. I would just say, honestly, I know this sounds a little bit hokey, but truly listen to your body. Absolutely. Because, you can have all these grand plans of what you want to do, but at the end of the day, if, you just need to lie down and read a book, or you just want to, play with your toddler for 5 minutes, like, I think it's just really important when, the gas tank is sometimes feeling on empty, that, it's okay if you rest, and it's okay if you don't, make that one workout work, because, you will get back to it. And I know that after Mila, I was so motivated after having such a long rest and being sick with her, that that's the only thing I wanted to do postpartum, was to get back to exercise. So you get there, but just to be patient and to just allow yourself to be restful if that's what you need.
Absolutely. I always tell clients that you should notice, especially for an active individual, you should notice that your performance goes down during pregnancy. That's normal. As the demands are higher to build a human, your exercise performance will go down. Think of it doing an equal return when you get back. Slow and steady down, slow and steady up. And one of the big reasons that I created the online program that I recommend to a lot of my clients and to a lot of women that are wanting to get back to exercise after, is it kind of takes you from this low point and builds you back up. It's the very early rehab that I think all women should be doing and that we're not. And so I think that just recognizing that as you go down, you are not going to go right back up to this after. It is a slow and steady climb after. And I highly recommend those of you that are at the end of your pregnancy or that are, just recovering from having a baby, that you do check out that program. It will be linked underneath this interview. And I was talking to Kirsty, maybe we should kind of revisit this conversation in a few months when both Jess and Kirsty are a little bit farther on in their pregnancy, and talk a little bit more about what they're noticing now, maybe what kinds of things they're doing to prepare for their birth. And I think it would be good for people to pick up, where we've left off, and kind of follow along in your journey. Kirsty, thank you so much for your time and for your openness, because like I said, I think a lot of women will listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me. And to understand that they're not weird, they're not abnormal, and that you'll be just fine.
Oh, thanks so much, Mel. And it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Okay, take care. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye.